Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl, Aida Rodriguez, and we are back with another episode of Truth Serum. We took last week off because some people were celebrating genocide. Some people were celebrating the killing of turkeys. They were celebrating whatever you wanted to celebrate. I just chose to kick it with my family. And as usual, we wake up in the morning and say, we made it another day, because every day is surviving in America, especially if you are brown or black. I want to say thank you to all of you who have been supporting the show. You keep showing up and showing out, and I appreciate that. Here, we want to hear the voices of the people who look like us, sound like us, talk like us, smell like us, and have something to say. Mainstream media is becoming, well, it's trash. We know it's trash, and it just keeps giving the microphone to the buffoons and the fools, and we refuse to do that here at Truth Serum, where we give it to you straight with no chaser. I'm excited about this episode because this is one of the people that I actually pay attention to on Twitter. I've muted 95% of the people I follow, and I only pay attention to a few voices because a lot of y'all ain't talking about shit, and it's really I don't know if you're watching what's happening in our world, but there's some serious stuff going on. And while we're not watching and worrying about who Khloe Kardashian is sleeping with and who had a nose job, people are losing their homes. Homelessness it's already been out of hand, but people are going to be homeless because they're going to be evicted. We got these clowns in DC trying to figure out when they're going to sprinkle these little whatever to the people, and the people are suffering. So those of us who are about the people really take this on, and we have to deal with the crazies daily. This is Benjamin Dixon is joining me. He's a host of the Benjamin Dixon Show, but I think one of the leading voices in this progressive fight. And I think it's very important for us to have these conversations because we're not trying to turn America into Cuba. How you doing, Benjamin?
I'm doing great. How are you, Aida? Thanks so much for having me.
I'm glad you're here. You were one of the first people that Irina and I said we wanted to have on the show because I think it's very important to start with talking about what being a progressive is. So many people have hijacked this term to serve whatever it is that they're trying to use to instill fear in the people. And I wanted you, because you're one of our leading voices in this fight, to just simply tell us what being a progressive is to you.
Well, the first thing I want to say is that you definitely nailed it. There are a lot of people who've co-opted the word progressive because it is a good brand, right? It's really easy to get a whole lot of followers and subscribers and stuff if you're the most progressive of all progressives. But at the end of the day, if you're not fighting for the liberation of all marginalized people at every intersection, everywhere across the globe, I don't know that you can call yourself a real progressive. So to me, progressivism is all about liberating marginalized people.
Amen. And so, it's funny because Brooke Thomas, who was on TYT, and I had this conversation about how even being a progressive has been hijacked by, white people who are liberal people who call themselves progressive, and then they invite us to the party, not realizing that the fight began with us. It's for the purpose of our liberation.
Right.
So a lot of progressive talk right now. Joe Biden even naming some of the people in his Joe Biden army and telling us that they are progressive and progressive thinkers. What do you think is happening right now in terms of the hijacking of the term and what's happening in this future administration that people think is going to?
Yeah. They're doing their best to redefine progressivism in general because they know that there's a progressive push. There's a groundswell, organizations and institutional power that is gathering around actual progressives. And when I say actual progressives, again, I don't care about the title. I don't really care what you call us. But the people who are fighting on behalf of marginalized people, on behalf of Black and brown people, indigenous people, LGBTQIA, those of us who are fighting on behalf of them, right? What Joe Biden is actively trying to do is to redefine progressivism so that he could kind of pacify us right? And make us think, at least they think, they're going to be able to convince us that this administration is progressive. But we're going to have to watch them like hawks every single day.
So one of the things that we within this fight, we got involved, and the Black Lives Matter came about. Ferguson, we started talking about using this term. They weaponized the term, they politicized it, and we had been fighting for the ideology, the belief that Black Lives Matter, right? Mm-hmm. This is not about an organization. It is not about money. It is just basically about the fundamental right to be a Black person in America and have what is granted to you by this, alleged Constitution. Mm-hmm. Now we're seeing it with Defund the Police. And Barack Obama made a statement about it. And we're going to play the video for those of you who didn't see Obama.
I guess you can use a snappy slogan like defund the police, but you've lost a big audience the minute you say it, which makes it a lot less likely that you're actually going to get the changes you want done. But if you instead say, let's reform the police department so that everybody's being treated fairly, divert young people from getting into crime. And if there's a homeless guy, maybe we send a mental health worker there instead of an armed unit that could end up resulting in a tragedy. Suddenly, a whole bunch of folks who might not otherwise listen to you are listening to you. So the key is deciding, do you want to actually get something done, or do you want to feel good among the people you already agree with?
Who is he trying to fool? Like, does he honestly believe that there are going to be people who we can convince about this, right? Because there are people who have looked at everything that has happened with police brutality across this country. One of the first images I remember was Rodney King, right? So we've been seeing this front and center since Rodney King back in the 90s. And here we are still doing the same thing. So, I'm really disappointed that Barack Obama ain't really learned nothing while he was in the president of the United States, right? Because he should really understand very clearly that we are not going to convince any moderate Republicans to do anything with us, anything. They won't even save their own damn lives, right? They won't even put on a mask to save the lives of their grandmother or their children or whatever. So why would we ever think that it is a good strategy to try to appeal to people who can't even see our suffering in the first place?
Yeah, I'm tired of us being told to police our words, to mind our words, to appease a group of people, like you say, that don't see us anyway, right? We are always being told, even with Black Lives Matter, we had the pushback from All Lives Matter, but it just became, why is it that the left always feels like they have to be, they have to pander? Because that's damn right pandering.
Mm. I don't know the answer to that. I actually have to chew on that for a little while, but I think that it could be more nefarious. I think that it could be that Barack Obama knows exactly what he's doing, right? I started off by saying, well, maybe he didn't learn anything in the White House about how unmovable Republicans really are. But the fact of the matter is maybe he actually knows exactly what the hell he's doing. And he has a vested interest in protecting the power structure as it is right now, because the power structure preserved and took care of him pretty good. So there are a lot of Democrats who actually are in lockstep with the policing agencies across this country. So of course they don't want to see them defunded.
And I just think that we have to stop minding our words. We have to stop being afraid of revolution. I talk about it all the time, because what we have been experiencing for so long, and all of the trying to accommodate our oppressor, has not worked.
No. At all, at all, by design, right? Because the oppressor has set out rules that are disguised as civility, but civility itself is a tool of keeping the powerful powerful.
Yeah, and why is it? It's that church that got shot up, and the first thing they asked was, "Do you forgive?"
Jesus.
It is unbelievable how we're constantly being told that we need to watch our words, mind our words. Yeah. Defund fucking police is not abolish the police.
Right. Because really, you remember clear as day, nobody in the street was chanting defund the police. They were saying abolish the police. So defunding the police is the compromise.
Right. I think that one of the biggest problems that I have is when people say to me, and people have been very aggressive and actually violent threats towards me when I say, I hear cops say, my job is to get home. And it's like, no, your job is for me to get home. I'm tired of hearing y'all saying y'all tired. This is your job.
Right.
Defund the police is the solution for you to not be tired, because we're removing certain responsibilities from you. Right. So I just
but they don't want that though. See, here's the thing. Like they have billion-dollar budgets in cities, you know what I mean? That like it makes up 40, 50, 60% of their budget, right? It's obscene. And they don't want to get rid of those dollars, period. Who and what organization ever wants to actively give up money? So it's not a matter of them being more efficient. It's not a matter of a better allocation of resources. Police don't care about that. They just want those dollars to come into their coffers so that they can buy their new tanks.
You know, it's really interesting. I mean, I follow you on Twitter, and you don't mince words, and you really go in. And I'm like, because it makes me feel like I'm okay. People get really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But white people who are like really triggered, and Black people who like to pander to white people, don't realize that every single fight for us to have freedom has been a revolutionary thought at its beginning.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Nothing like, and then you said something in your opening monologue where you were like, it really is progress in this country has come on the backs of Black, brown, and indigenous people in this country, very specifically, right? And so it is the people who have what this country needs, the truth serum, right? The antidote to the problems of this country are the ones who are told to be quiet and to be civil and to watch your words and watch your tone. Don't say it like this, say it like that, because if you say it like that, what it actually does is it helps protect the power structure as it is.
Yeah, and it's exhausting. And those of us who fight this fight are really tired of it. Yeah. And we don't want to hear it anymore, because remember the civility talk a few years ago? It was the whole, we have to be civil. And I'm tired of oppressed people being blamed for their oppression.
Come on.
One, and then told that they need to be kinder to the people who have the feet on their neck. So Jamal Bowman had a response to Obama. And this time his connection wasn't
cut. I love it.
And so I wanted to share with the people, because people are really get real triggered about cops. And you know what people forget is cops are blue collar workers, and so many people have them in their families and in their habitats because they are poor people, and this call to action is actually to make it better for them. It's to create a better system so that they don't have to go around killing Black and brown people. Jamal is take a look at this clip.
Defund the police. It's bad messaging because it turns people off to the real reforms that you are trying to put forward. What is your response and your take on that? Do you think there's something to that?
Defund the police does not mean abolish the police. It means a dramatic reduction in the number of police in our poor communities, and particularly our poor Black and brown communities. Historically, when our communities have needed jobs, they didn't bring us jobs. They brought us police, and they created a system of mass incarceration. And we live in a country where if you're Black or brown, you're more likely to be killed by police, and more likely to be incarcerated, and more likely to not afford bail. So we're focusing on this slogan, defund the police, but where are the resources to bring jobs into our communities? Where are the resources to fully fund our public schools? Where are the resources to deal with the issue of housing and food insecurity? We're not talking about any of that. We're worried about a slogan. And lastly, only 5% of police work is focused on violent crimes, rape, homicide, aggravated assault. The other 95% can be handled by other agencies, mental health institutions, domestic violence professionals, etc. So we've been doing policing all wrong for decades. In some cities, 40% of the budget goes toward policing, and police are terrorizing Black and brown communities. The evidence is clear across the country. So we have to do something different and not allow Republicans to flip a talking point on its head and make us respond to it. This is about reimagining our country and building back better in a way that uplifts Black communities and not leaves them oppressed.
So it's only a few of the Washington people who speak that way. And we got to protect them at all costs because, you know, they come for them. I wanted to ask you, in watching what's been happening with law enforcement in this country and our communities, do you think that there is a road to resolution in the near future for us?
In the near future, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how hopeful I am for the near future because there's a lot of work that has to be done, with one exception. Here's my optimism, right? I do think that progressivism is on the ascendancy. I think in terms of leaders, you know, both political leaders as well as organizers in the streets and you know, just revolutionaries and radicals in the streets. It is definitely on the ascendancy in that regard. It's on the ascendancy. Progressivism is on the ascendancy with regard to the institutional power that we have, our ability to fundraise and organize and run people for office and to primary people. Like we are really getting to that place where we have enough institutional power, media wise, right? Where all the different shows that are out, all the different media, independent progressive media networks, there is a bright future that is progressive. I just don't know how soon that tide is going to turn. My hope is certainly before I check out of here that we could see some actual progress in this country. I
feel you. So one of the things that Obama also did, because Obama's been in the headlines, he must have a movie coming out. Yeah. He was on the Breakfast Club and he criticized Hispanic voters, and that's the way that it was for supporting Donald Trump. And first and foremost, I want to make the distinction here so that I always do that everywhere we go. Hispanic people are people who speak Spanish, and Spaniards, those are our colonizers. Latino people or Latinx people are the people who were oppressed by many of these groups. So when they say the words Hispanic, they're not talking about us. They are talking about, a lot of times they're talking about our oppressors. So it doesn't surprise me that people who are of Spanish descent in America would vote for Donald Trump. Right? That's no different than any other white person who would vote for Donald Trump. So when they say Hispanic voters, it really drives me crazy because it groups us into this group and erases a lot of the cultural and racial dynamics of what being Latinx is. But a lot of criticism for the Latinx community and those who did support Donald Trump, which they try to target a lot of Cubans and people from Venezuela that come from socialist countries. But how fair is it to do this, Benjamin? And because there are groups of people, I mean, Black people and indigenous people, Latinx people, gay people, LGBTQIA plus people who all voted for Donald Trump for whatever reasons they found. But there's been this continuous focus on the Latinx vote where in Arizona, that was not the case. Now, Florida, yes, right? How does it, for me, it triggers me because I know that what it is continuously trying to divide and conquer, right? They're constantly feeding us these narratives about how the other groups are against us. How do you think we tackle this to create some sort of solidarity? Because right now, all the groups are hurting. But we need some solidarity to flip this table over. Yeah, I really have to kind of absorb that a little. One of the things, as I heard you describing the frustration that you face with so much emphasis being placed on Hispanic, Latin voters who voted for Latinx voters who voted for Donald Trump, it reminds me of the frustration that I have on my side when they say like, oh, 18% of Black men voted for Donald Trump. The truth of the matter is that every single community has reactionaries.
right? Every single community has conservatives, right? It is overwhelmingly a progressive Black community, but that never meant that we weren't going to have people who are more than happy to do the bidding of white supremacy because it helps their bottom line. In terms of Obama doing the criticism, it's a little insulting, especially from my perspective as a Black man who still waiting for him to have done something for us. Like, why would you criticize communities as if they have to support you? Like, as if there can't be any deviation from the norm or from what's acceptable to the Democratic Party. Because the reason I'm making this distinction is because what they did, what Barack Obama does there and the Democratic Party does there all the time is they try to ensure that everyone is 100% in lockstep with the neoliberal talking points, paradigm, and ideology. And if you stray from that in either direction, to the Republican Party or to the Democratic Party, then they have to reel you back in. Now, if you're going over there to the Republican Party, I got nothing to talk to you about. Democrats can talk to you all you want. I got time. We don't have time. We got climate change to worry about. But in terms of everyone else, it's like they are doing their best to control us, but they're not doing their best to actually serve us.
Right. And I hold my people accountable because the truth about it is that when they put us in this Latinx box, they forget that there are Black Latin people, there are indigenous Latin people, that there's a spectrum and the interests are different because we got our own white people too. Like, people don't realize we got our own group of white people who also oppress us. And it's really, what you said for me is so important because yes, they continuously kept highlighting the fact that there was a rise in Black men who voted for Donald Trump, as well as the Black evangelicals and the Latinx people. What I want to ask you is, in the comments, people have said Barack Obama was the president of all people, not the president of Black people. What he's supposed to do for Black people being the president of all people? And I would love for you to respond to that because I'm so tired of that talking point.
I'm going to do my best to channel my very best Michael Eric Dyson, because he actually addressed this question back in 2009, right after Barack Obama was inaugurated. He was at the State of the Black Union with Tavis Smiley and Cornel West. And he said, what do you mean? Well, because Barack Obama said that himself. He said, I'm not the president of Black people. I'm the president of all people. And Michael Eric Dyson said, what do you mean you're not the president of Black people? By the very definition of saying that you're the president of all people, that means you're also president of Black people. And if you're not doing anything for Black people, then you're not being the president of all people. See, we use that as an excuse to say, don't expect anything as a Black person in this country. Versus saying, if he really represents everybody, if all lives actually mattered, Barack Obama, then Black lives would matter. And if all policy matters for all people, then Black policy for Black people would matter. So yeah, miss me with that foolishness.
No, I'm with you. I think it's first and foremost, the Black population in America is in dire straits.
Come on.
There is a problem for this community, and it is not a secret. Right. And it's been happening forever. And America owes Black American people because Black American people built this country, right? But the fact that you yourself could mistakenly be assaulted by the cops or killed walking down the wrong street on the wrong night is the reality that we have a state of emergency in this country. And if you are the president of the United States, you are supposed to address that need.
Exactly. You need to address the specific needs of all communities, right? Because we have no problem. And this is, see, I won't allow this to drive a wedge between my community and everyone, because we're all one. If you are fighting on behalf of marginalized people, I don't care what race you are, ethnicity, gender, orientation, I don't care. None of that matters. That's our solidarity. We're all fighting. And so sometimes comments like this, he wasn't the president of Black America, he was the president of all America, goes to drive a wedge between the Black community and, let's say, the LGBTQIA community. Not that obviously there are plenty of Black LGBTQIA members, right? But in terms of like, if we're doing like big groupings, because what folks will always like to point out to us is that Barack Obama was more than happy to do something on behalf of the LGBTQIA community, right? So if you're willing to do something there, if you're willing to do something for dreamers, if you're willing to do specific things for specific communities who are suffering specific harms because of America, do something about it. Damn it. Do something and stop trying to find ways of making sure that you can do anything you want except help Black people.
One of the comments here is fuck out of here with the Obama hate. Sometimes I address some of the comments because I feel I can have a conversation with ignorance, but I will say this. You cannot truly support any president in this country if you can't criticize them. Right. And that's what makes the difference between you being a constituent and you being a fan. And we cannot afford as people of color to be fanatical about any of the people in public office because our communities are suffering and struggling right now. And it is our responsibility to hold all of them accountable, including the ones that look like us, especially the ones who look like us.
Especially you got up there on the merits of, I mean, you had a cool career. I mean, there's a lot of Harvard lawyers, a lot of community organizers, a lot of state senators, a couple of senators, federal senators. I get that. You start, but you got there on the back of the Black vote, right? The Democratic Party right now, Joe Biden will not be president today if not for the Black vote. And you tell me it's wrong for us to ask for them to do something for us? We'd be a fool. We would be a fool to sit back and just be okay with the fact, oh, well, they're the president of all people, but they ain't done shit for Black folks. I'm sorry, what rating is your show? I don't just out here.
No, you say it. No, you say it. But listen, that I'm so glad you said that because so much to the point that Joe Biden went on the Breakfast Club and said, if you don't vote for me, you not
ain't Black. Come on.
So they know as much that they have been supported. Black women have showed up for them over and over again.
Absolutely.
Been saving this country from the beginning, from the moment that they got here. There's some protests in Cuba going on. So I said I was going to cover that today because people, a lot of Cubans come for me because I do hold Cubans accountable. The ones that want to be white and assimilate and don't want to be with us in the times of struggle, but want to be with us in the times of benefit. And I think it's important for us to hold everybody accountable. But I do want to say that I'm not in favor of what is happening in Cuba, and especially to the people. I have an aunt and a family in Cuba who are struggling because of the government and the situation in Cuba. And I wanted to make sure that we're very clear about where we stand because they hijacked our movement so much when we talk about healthcare and when we talk about law enforcement. And they don't realize that when they lock those mailboxes or they drop those fake police off in Portland, that looks more like Cuba and Venezuela than what we're speaking of. I wanted to ask your thoughts about what you thought was happening in Cuba and how you feel about people constantly hijacking your movement and saying that we're trying to make America communist.
Oh man, I don't know which one to tackle first. So one of the biggest things that stands out, there are several protests that are happening all across the country, and if not for independent media, we wouldn't know about any of them. Right? Mainstream media really is not in the business of covering protests, especially protests that would be an indirect or direct challenge to our system here. In terms of this language about communism and, they're hijacking it's scaremongering, right? It's fear mongering in its finest form. Nobody really expects America to ever become a communist nation anytime in our lifetime, but that doesn't mean that we can't get Medicare for all. Right. That doesn't mean that we can't get some student loan cancellation. Right. We've been pimped and hustled in this country. We've been exploited so long in this country for every dime that we have, that the idea that we would not be charged obscene profits because we are fighting cancer or lupus or diabetes. It's just completely obscene that we allow profit shares to be cut off of people who are dying of cancer and fighting cancer. And so to me, it's like, if you really want to talk about communism versus whatever else, look at just the absurdity of what we do in this country. Look at the absurdity of what we do and tell me that we can't do better. And if doing better means that that's communism to you, then we really need to understand how deep the fascism really it goes in your blood.
Yeah, the other thing that I wanted to make sure that we have to say it over and over again, because we don't realize how inadequate our education system is in this country.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things that we fight for, right? Because we become in debt for a lot of Americans are in debt for receiving these mediocre educations that have been, they've been pimped into believing it's going to change their quality of life, and all it does worsens it, right?
Right.
So we talk about it, but when we talk about socialism, which is very alive in America, but it doesn't benefit the average man, I think it's so interesting how this last presidency, this Donald Trump era, really, really preyed on people who lack education and don't have access to information.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to the Idiocracy movie and the trend of America moving towards this know nothing era, right? We're moving towards the era of excitedly reveling in ignorance, right? The rejection of science, the rejection of truth. The sky is green and the grass is blue. That's where we are in America. So it makes it that much easier for someone like Donald Trump to come in as a strong man, because we have seen the dumbing down of our country over the last, generations, probably.
Yeah. If Kurt Vonnegut wrote Hocus Pocus, you read about 1984, Idiocracy is 20 years old. People saw it coming. The people saw the writers, the philosophers, they saw it coming. And I don't think people really understand it. Everybody has a microphone now. And so people like you and I become the enemy of the people when we're actually trying to fight the people, because unfortunately, if you are so busy working, my example is always a towel mill or a factory, you don't have time to read what's happening.
Right. No, absolutely. That's the other side of it, right? So you have those people who actively reject science because they need to reject the truth in order to maintain their worldview, because the reason they have to reject the truth is because if that truth ever gets into them, they would realize that their worldview is bullshit, right? So they actively reject it. But then you do have that other group of people, Ida, that you're mentioning, that are so locked in to just trying to survive. They literally do not have the time to go out there and learn every single policy, to be active, to do it. It is capitalism. Capitalism is like racism, in the same way that Toni Morrison said the purpose of racism is to occupy your time, to waste your time. Capitalism doesn't only exploit you, but it occupies your time, and it keeps you from having the time to actually rebel against it.
So we are, you talk about capitalism, and we've been talking about this vaccine, and them politicizing COVID so much that people are not wearing masks. You see every day there's a post of someone who didn't believe it existed, then got it, and then died of it. And they're becoming memes. And it is, we are talking about this vaccine, and now these same people who don't want to wear the masks are talking about how, hell no, I ain't getting no vaccine because I don't trust this government and all of this stuff. And it is just further taking us down in the hole, because those of us who are following the rules are also suffering at the expense of those who don't. What are your thoughts about this coronavirus? The three former presidents said that they would take the vaccine publicly to just give people faith. Obama, Clinton, and Bush Jr. What do you think about this whole idea? Because we do talk about capitalism, and people don't trust the government. They don't trust the government. And it's, they're talking about these vaccines, and they're saying that there's one company versus the other one that's not taking any government funding. How do you see this for us? What are your thoughts about the vaccine and what's happening in this country with regards to coronavirus and how it's been devastating us here?
So this one it's not difficult, but I don't know. Maybe it's complicated. I don't know. Let me just give you where I don't trust this government. But at the same time, damn it, if I can look at the data and somebody I trust looks at the data and says this is a good vaccine, I gotta trust somebody because I'm not a scientist and I'm not going to be able to break down the research and understand it in a way that I can make an informed decision for myself based on reading the data, right? So I simultaneously don't trust our government, but I have to trust scientists because I'm going to go do the research myself. I'm going to go run my own trial. That said, I don't know that I trust Obama. He said he went to Flint, Michigan and drank some water as if it was, no lead in the water over there. So, I mean, I hate to be the person that gives. I take no pleasure in giving the first black president a hard time. But it's just like, come on, man. You kind of have a spotty track record on some key things, and going out to do a public, demonstration of why we should trust you isn't really in your purview, in my best estimation. But at the same time, I probably will absolutely trust whatever the scientific consensus says about the vaccine, and wait until after Obama and all the presidents and all the members of Congress take it, and about maybe, I don't know, 100 million other people take it, and then give it about 6 months to see if anybody turns into a zombie. And if not, then I'll take my whole family to get it.
I said the same thing. I said, y'all first.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I want Ilhan, AOC, Ayana. I want them to wait. I want everybody else to go.
Everybody that we need to lead us into a progressive future, I need y'all to wait with me. Right? Because you never know. Maybe they are so selfish and greedy, these corporations, which we've seen historically, and America's government has historically done some evils. You never know. They might end up just clearing out an entire swath of hate-filled people who are going to just drag their feet, might wipe out the entire Republican Party since they're so excited about the vaccine. So I would say to all the progressive people in the country, let's just wait. Let's just wait an extra 3 months or something like that.
Speaking of Republicans and wiping them out,
rhetorically speaking, politically speaking, right?
I know we're talking about politically speaking. Mitch McConnell had a. Go ahead, say it. Say it.
That motherfucker. That dude. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mitch McConnell had a meltdown. And he gave us some of them Mitch McConnell tears. You know what? They're specific tears. The Mitch McConnell tears are very specific tears.
Yeah.
Arena, run the clip.
Well, my friend for 18 years has been Lamar Alexander, and there's been the rest of us. So I'm sorry that in a few more weeks, it'll just be the rest of us left.
He can't pretend to make me think for 1 second that he actually has a heart, right? This is a sadistic bastard we're talking about here, and he's want to cry. Like, man, get the hell out of here with that.
What's funny is that I think about all of the people who our comedy community lost 2 comedians this week to COVID. And they were both brown people, right? I was talking to my friend today. We went hiking this morning, and all the white people on the trail did not have on a mask.
Get the hell out of here. Damn.
It's in Calabasas. All the people of color had on their masks. And it's because we constantly see a reflection of ourselves on the casualty list. So we know that it's real, right?
Yeah.
Know that it's real. But when I see Mitch McConnell cry, and I think about the devastation in this country, I also feel it's not real. But I just think crying on demand is a very important skill in Hollywood.
And in politics, apparently.
Yeah, and some actors go to acting coaches so that they are able to learn how to cry on demand. And I look at these because Washington is always making fun of and talking about and criticizing Hollywood, but
Yes.
there is so much Hollywood in Washington.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a 100%. Someone in the chat room said it was Mitch tears. I think that's the perfect. I mean, literally, they are Mitch tears, and the way he's acting, it's just a whole show. It's a show, but it also shows you. Let's say he's genuine. It shows you he has more concern and more empathy for his friend who's leaving than all those people who have died of COVID-19 and all the people who are struggling to pay bills right now because they won't pass any additional stimulus.
Say that. I believe in solutions, and I like to always use my platform to give people vision for what can happen and some of the things that we are working towards. What are some of the things that you are focusing on right now that you think are of the utmost importance in terms of fighting for what is happening to our people in our marginalized communities?
Power. I think the biggest thing that I'm focused on is making sure that everyone understands how important it is for them to become a part of a powerful unit, or to amass their own political power, their organizing power, their email lists, their fundraising capacity, their ability to put pressure on politicians. Like I not only power, but also transitioning. I need everyone to understand that you are the adults, right? You either have kids or you know people with kids and you got responsibilities. You got your own taxes, your own bills. You are responsible for the generation that is getting old and has to retire. And you're also responsible for the generations that are to come. That's where we are. How we're run in this country is by people who are so removed from our generation, from our age group, that they honestly have no connection to our responsibilities, to what we're fighting for in the context of when we're fighting. What we're fighting for in 2020 is totally different than what they had to fight for, what Susan Collins and Mitch McConnell and Dianne Feinstein and all the rest of them who are like over 90 years old. Not for real, but you get it. It's totally different. It's totally different. So how can someone who's so removed from the responsibility of 2020 be giving us policies, be responsible for creating legislation? It's not to be ageist. It's to say that you, as the viewer, need to understand that you are the adult, and the responsibility for your family is on you. The responsibility for your destiny is on you. Why in the world are we not led by people who have the same type of responsibility as we do, versus people who are not going to have to deal with the ramifications of climate change because they'll probably be dead in the next 5 years? So power, and understand that it is our time to lead. It is our time to lead. No more waiting in line. Primary, everybody.
I'm with you. Georgia, Atlanta stays in the news. In Georgia, I'm from the South, so I'm from Florida. So
okay. What part of Florida?
I'm from Miami. So
I grew up in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, okay. So you already know why. Yes. But you're not there now. You're in New York.
No. I'm in Georgia now. I'm in Georgia. I'm in Atlanta.
You're in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. So Atlanta has always I lived in Georgia for a while. Georgia is always positioned as the South, right? Mm-hmm. The dirty South. But there's a dynamic in Georgia that is different than the rest of the South, right? Mm-hmm. The metropolis of Atlanta is a very progressive unit, and people don't really understand that when you're talking about Jonesboro and Griffin, you're not talking mm-hmm. about Atlanta. What do you think is going to happen there in January?
So I thought it was going to be close in the special elections, David Perdue and versus John Ossoff, Kelly Loeffler versus Raphael Warnock, the Democrat. And at first I thought it was going to be close, and I've always believed that we could win it. And when I say we, of course, like I don't feel like we have to keep making these distinctions, but I think it's worthwhile here for people who may never heard me speak before. When I say we, I'm not talking about it as if I see myself as a Democrat. I'm talking about it as those of us who at least at a minimum believe that we should wear a mask. That's it. Like, I don't have a lot of hope in John Ossoff, and I do kind of like Raphael Warnock. We have a very similar background. But I'm not putting my energy investing in them as personalities. I really do believe that they will do what the scientists say. And I think that's all that matters in 2020 and 2021. That said, what do I think is going to happen? The Republicans in Georgia, they are ripping each other apart. They have so much infighting happening right now. It's beautiful. I think we need to exploit it. I think we need to exacerbate it. I think we need to push them to the point where they're fighting each other rhetorically in the streets. And if that continues to happen, then I think it actually is going to be a pretty solid victory versus a close victory in January for Democrats and for those of us who believe in science.
So I wanted to ask you this question. I've never asked anyone this on Truth Serum before, because it's just, there are only certain people who I want to know how they really think. If you had your druthers and you could see someone be the president of this country and think that they could do a good job, give me a list of 3 people that you think would be great presidential candidates for this country, because everybody's in our group, you hear, when will AOC be 35, right? That we're hearing that. But we're so caught up with celebrity culture in this country that we don't realize that a lot of these people are not doing the work. These people just have followers. There are people on the ground who do the work every day, and those are the ones who need to be exalting. Yeah. Who would you see do a good job with running the corporation of America?
That's a tough one, because let's okay, I'll answer it and then I'll tell you why I think it's tough. I am going to go with the big 3. Of course, I think Bernie Sanders would have done a great job. I think Elizabeth Warren would have done a great job in 2016 had she run, because I think she would have won. And I do really love the energy of the squad in general. Right, the way they had just complete disrespect for Barack Obama this week, and I appreciate that. I like Obama. Let me put this on. I actually like Barack Obama, but I also think it is far more valuable to have a generation of leaders who do not bow before his throne, right? And so to that end, I would throw just about anybody from the squad at this point. Like, I know Ilhan Omar can't because she's an immigrant, but AOC, Ayanna Pressley, keep an eye on her. Like, she's not the most vocal out of the crew, out of the squad, but I know her from Massachusetts when I lived there, and she did a lot of great work in Massachusetts. So I really don't want to pick a particular person from the squad in so much as to say I think the squad is next. Somebody out of that group, or at least that type of fight, would do a good job leading this country, so long as they can hold on to the fight that they have right now, all the way until the time they actually become president and not be co-opted between now and then.
I agree. And what's so interesting is that they are unbreakable. Their bond is unbreakable, even though they broke with Warren, and Ayanna endorsed Warren and the rest endorsed Bernie. You still can't break them. Like, as much as they tried, even with that, they're still unbreakable. I've actually met Ayanna, and I have a lot of respect for her. And she may not be as vocal, but she is as effective.
She's fierce. And like I said, I saw her when I lived in Boston. She was running for office, the state level office there. And next thing I know, she won the congressperson seat. So shout out to her.
And the fact that she's where she is, Ilhan is where she is, and Corey is now making an impression, joining us and fighting the good fight. What do you think is going to happen in January with Nutso 45? Remember Above the Rim?
I remember Above the Rim.
That's why I call him Nutso. Playing that imaginary basketball for the last 4 years.
Oh man, it has been wild. I think he's going to announce that he's going to run in 2024. I think he's going to announce on Inauguration Day. He's an attention. He needs attention, and I also think he needs money. and he can raise unlimited amounts of money running for president. Doesn't mean he can use it for his personal purposes, but I don't know, if they keep flying those helicopters and airplanes to his resorts, that money is going to end up in his pocket anyway. So I think he has a very concrete strategy of announcing his run in 2024, maintaining an unbelievable amount of influence in the Republican Party and the conservative movement in this country. He is going to stunt the development of new leadership in the Republican Party. And you know what? That's what they deserve, because the Republicans are just as responsible for Donald Trump as Donald Trump. Republicans represent Trumpism. They should not get a free pass and be allowed to get off scot-free just because he leaves office. I hope that Donald Trump haunts them for the rest of his life and in his afterlife.
Yo, I think he has one hell of a vault, because when I tell you he flips people, the people who were, what? I'm like, I want to know what he has in that vault on Lindsey Graham. Like, he got the vote of all votes. When do you think he will stop this foolishness? Because every day he's still fighting for election fraud, right? When do you think that stops? When does he finally pick his face up off the floor and says, I'm done?
So there's two answers to that question. One, once it becomes clear that he probably will be removed by the Secret Service, I think he'll go ahead and get out of there. Somebody out of the White House, one of the reporters, a woman journalist, actually asked a very straightforward question. I'm paraphrasing, but she basically said, are you telling us you're not going to leave? And it resonated with him in the sense, because he looked and he said, of course I'm going to leave. Now, between now and then, I think he's going to keep trying to overturn the results of the election, right? But to answer your question, when will he pick up and try to save face? I think once it becomes evident that the Secret Service is going to remove him if he doesn't. And then two, when is he going to let go of all of the shenanigans that he's playing on this country and politics and the Republican Party? Never. Until he dies. He's going to be the same Donald Trump all the way to his dying breath.
Yo, I know that Biden said that he has no plans to seek any legal action against Donald Trump, but that does not, which I thought was weak and whack, right? But that does not mean that local jurisdictions cannot come for Donald Trump. Do you see them going to jail? Do you think he's going to pardon himself and his family before he's out?
Yeah, he's going to pardon himself. Like, why would he not? I would. I would never get in the kind of dumb shit trouble that he got into. But why would he not? Why would he leave office and expect people to not come after him? So it's in his best interest to go ahead and pardon himself and create a constitutional crisis or whatever that's going to be like. We've never seen it before. I kind of have it's kind of like driving by a car wreck and you just can't help but look at it. This twisted fascination with how far Donald Trump can actually push things without destroying our country. And I think that he's going to push the envelope both on overturning the results of the election as well as refusing. Not just refusing to concede, but also refusing to let go of power in this country, refusing to let go of influence in this country, no matter how devastating it is. He's going to continue.
I wanted to just get your a brief description of how you see what Donald Trump has done to the country in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I get people all the time that are like, all the politicians are corrupt. The Democratic Party is just as bad. And I was like, yeah. But still, he took, Obama got a car with no gas and drove it for a couple more miles and got it to where it needed to go. Donald Trump took the car and
ran it off the side of the road. He packed in as many people as he could and drove it off the cliff. What Donald Trump has done over the last 4 years, we have been dealing with a level of trauma over the last 4 years that I don't think we're fully aware of, because not only the 270,000 people now who have died from COVID-19, those are real deaths. Those are real families that are mourning and grieving. And that is directly the result of Donald Trump's recklessness and downplaying it and not taking it seriously. and politicizing it. So that's just one thing. But the other parts that we've been traumatized on are all the different ways that Donald Trump has just thrown mud every single day, all day long. Chaos. He has a chaos theory. It is impossible to keep up with all of his lies because he lies so much. It is impossible to keep up with all the damage that he's done because he's doing so much damage. And it's impossible to keep up with all the scandals because it's a never-ending cycle of scandals and crimes. And he knows that. And I think over the last 4 years, he's had a concerted effort of intentionally undermining our ability to process the last drama, the last scandal, the last news cycle. And he's accelerated it to the point where it's 3 or 4 or 5, 10 times a day now. We have to process some absurdity from the most powerful person on the face of the planet. So I think what's going to end up happening, in addition to us trying to heal and recover from COVID-19, is that we're going to actually have to get used to not having every single day be batshit out of control because of Donald Trump constantly and relentlessly throwing scandals at us as a way of making himself Teflon Don. That's how nothing sticks to him, because he continuously throws shit.
Have you ever met someone who is a Donald Trump supporter that could give you some good reasons why they support Donald Trump?
You know, I've been afraid to ask some of my conservative friends. I went to, I was in a PhD. I didn't finish the PhD, but I was in the PhD program, all but dissertation, and a lot of them were conservatives. It was an international politics program, and really great people in that. Really, like, there's a couple of assholes, but for the most part, I love all of them. They're all overwhelmingly conservative. I'm a little afraid to ask them because I don't want to not like them. So in terms of other conservatives, nobody's ever given me anything. In terms of conservatives that I actually know, I'm afraid to ask them because I just don't want to know that maybe underneath all their charming smiles and really, good friendship and love and all that kind of stuff, that they're just some bigotry that they just genuflect to. I don't know. But I do know one time I did hear one person, conservative friend of mine, say that he was really more turned off by the gall of people telling him something he couldn't do, saying that you couldn't vote for Donald Trump, you couldn't vote for the Republican. He's like, how are you going to tell me what I can't do? He said, I'm more likely to do something just because you're trying to tell me what I can't do. That might be the only excuse that I've heard so far that I'm like, I don't agree with you, but I understand because I'm petty like that too.
I know. I mean, I ask you that because I've been called a sellout because I voted for Biden. And because I voted for Biden doesn't mean that I support, I'm not a Biden fanatic, but I really felt like I had to vote for the lesser of two evils, right? Yeah. And that was just what it was at this time. But I have a conversation with someone who is a Trump supporter, and they said, do you really hate me for supporting Donald Trump? Like, can't you believe what you believe and me believe what I believe? And I'm like, yeah, but if what you believe is rooted in my oppression,
that's it.
I can't fuck with you, my G.
Yeah. Listen, we can't be friends, and we can't be friends if what you believe is going to lead to my destruction. I got to get you first. You know what I mean? Like, how can you expect us to be friends when you actually will lead to my death if everything that you believe in is implemented and everything that you support is protected, right? We can't be friends. Now, we could be associates, and I could speak to you every 3 or 4 years. You know what I mean? Fine. That's fine. That's how, my friends from the PhD program who are conservatives, but I can't have anyone actively in my space on a regular basis who actually believes in policy that is detrimental to my life and the life of the people I love.
How can people support you? How do they follow you, listen to your show? How can they support your movement? Because your movement is important.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. They can find me on Twitter at Benjamin P. Dixon. I talk the most shit. I talk so much cash money shit on Twitter. I'm like, you know what? I'm about to get out here in these streets and be ready to fight because some of the stuff I be saying to folks on Twitter. But so if you want a good show, come follow me on Twitter. If you want a nice balanced experience, you can watch the Benjamin Dixon show every night at 9 p.m. ish on YouTube. And if you really want to support, be sure to support Aida and what she's doing here, and become a patron and like, share, and subscribe all of her work.
I appreciate that. I always ask, this is how the show started. Are there any names of people that you would like to, I always encourage the people who watch, and we do get a lot of people who watch, to follow and learn about the people who are actually getting the work done. Van Crump, they've all come on the show and all shouted out the names of people that we wouldn't normally know because they don't have celebrity status. Are there any names of any people you want to shout out that are the good people out there doing the good work?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Yes, and I don't want to. Once I start naming names, I'm gonna leave somebody out. I know for sure. But Insay Unfat over at New Georgia Project, doing amazing work, and I'm actually going to interview her later on tonight. I'm also interviewing tonight Justin Horwitz, who leads Really American. That's the Really American PAC that is responsible for all these amazing commercials and advertisements and billboards in Georgia. They're trying to help us win Georgia for rational and reasonable people who believe in science. So shout out to them. In terms of on the ground, I always got a lot of respect for my sister, Anoa Changa, in Atlanta, who's doing amazing work and has always done amazing work. And then I couldn't not give a shout out to my homeboys, Marcus Farrell and Mundell Robinson, who are actively on the ground. Whenever they're not doing a show with me, they're gone doing work. So shout out to all of them.
Yes, I appreciate that. Listen to those names, watch the show again, follow those people and support their movements, because these are the people who are fighting for the people. Yeah. And I don't think people understand that. I don't think we understand that we do this because we're doing it for our uncles and our cousins and the people in our communities. Everybody's not going to be a lawyer. Some of us show up to, cut your meat and to make your towels, and those people's lives matter too. So I want to say thank you for being here. You were, one of our first, one of the people that we wanted here the most. I would love you to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Just say the word. I'll be back. And I want to get you over on my show sometime soon.
I appreciate that. And follow Benjamin Dixon. And listen, if you are of the faint of heart, don't follow us, because your feelings are going to get hurt. Like
they most certainly will. They most certainly will. Because I'm gonna tell you, you and be precise with your language. Like, really think through what you want to say before you tweet at us. Because it's not like we aren't Twitter guys or anything like that. But it's like we just deal with so much stupid shit over the years that we're kind of triggered. Our trigger finger is itchy. So But come over for a good show, though. We definitely, I follow your timeline too. You be out there cutting them people to pieces.
No, that's you. I got permission from you when I realized, and then I saw somebody come at you, and you were like, "Wait a minute now."
Oh yeah, listen. I haven't had a really good Twitter fight in a while, and like that's, I don't know. You just change over the years. But when I first got on Twitter, I was fighting with everybody, and not just because it's like I fight what I believe, and I'm really really passionate about it. But now I'm like, I just got to the age now where I'm like, I don't even get on Twitter like that for real. I do get on it every day, but early on in this politics thing, I was on it all day. So, but yeah, no, I love what you said, and I'm gonna shut up because I know our time is up. But you said that you kind of got permission from me, but what you're saying though is so important. It is the broader community, and we do look for signals from each other, right? Yeah. We look for signals on, okay, folks, are we going to be out here? Am I going to be out here by myself, or am I going to have some back? And so when you see somebody who is as bold as you are, it really makes you feel like there are people out there that have your back. And I think that's really important. So I'm glad if I actually serve that role for you. I hope that served that role for a whole lot of other people, because there've been so many people out there who have served that role for me when I feel like, I'm going out here on the ledge, but then I see my sister like Bree Newsom or anybody else. Like Bree comes to mind because she specifically one day was so about it on Twitter. Then I rolled up my sleeve and I'm said, all right, let's get to work.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, specifically when after George Floyd and the riot, and it was the anniversary of what happened in Oklahoma, and people were, even actors, and they were like, oh, we're not with the looting, but and I was like, I had reached the point where I was like, how much longer y'all gonna tell us to continue to feel the pain of oppression and tell us how to process it and how to react to it,
Right.
And then, you was like, bam, 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 bam. I was like, all right, I'm gone. Come undone.
Look, it's the people's. If you ask me about looting, it's the people's tax. If you ask me about writing, it's the voice of the unheard. So I mean, yeah. Like we that's what we do, Aida. And I'm so glad and proud of your work too, because we're pushing the Overton window and we're not letting these people chain us in anymore and cage us in anymore. We're going to speak our truth.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm glad you're here, and I'll be watching tonight. And I encourage everyone here to watch tonight. And please come back.
Thank you. I definitely will anytime.
All right. See you later. Okay. Bye, guys.